Well, the new year has meant a new version of the Oklahoma City Thunder, at least since January 4th. Their middling offense has improved to 9th in the league. That's a good thing, right? Unfortunately, the best D in the league up to that point has regressed to 28th out of 30 teams since. The transformation has taken its toll, with the Thunder losing 5 of 7 before their afternoon in Philadelphia with that guy and the 76ers.
Spoiler alert, this was also not a defensive struggle.
No, it was not. Russell Westbrook all by his lonesome coast to coast. He had 21, 10, 6 assists. Here's Embiid to the rim and 31 on the afternoon. This was an early game.
Loved the aggression from Embiid. Loved how much he was trying to get the ball at the rim.
A lot of folks won't love that shot selection, even wide open, because he's huge and taking threes. But Ben Simmons has got his back. 20 points, 15 boards, and 9 assists for Simmons. OKC up 3 at the half. Simmons, another layup. Philly up 2. Paul George. Ooh, good move to free himself up and knock down the 3. And then after the missed 3, Russ to PG on the lob. 31, 6, and 5 for PG. More from him later in the highlight. Sixers turn it over. Russ kind of lost the ball and was in an awkward position. He's basically dump trucked by Joel Embiid. More on this coming up as well, because Russ wasn't all that happy about it, as it turned out.
But I'm not sure what Embiid could have possibly done. I mean, Russ fell in front of him. Here's a big man running, and he just kind of landed
I think
on top.
if Joel doesn't put his arm down, it's actually significantly worse because he falls on him with all his body.
Well, those two had a history. Jimmy Butler has a recent history of making big shots late, including those two, and OKC's lead is down to 1. Embiid with a pump fake and gets fouled by Westbrook on a three-pointer. Westbrook fouls out on the play significantly, and Embiid hits his free throws. We're tied up at 113. Uh-oh. OKC turnover. Remember, no Russ in the game here. Philadelphia with the easy bucket from Butler, and they're up 2. Last chance for the Thunder. Under 7 seconds to go. Paul George and 1.
Just like you thought, a 4-point play from PG-13.
Unbelievable. Still time left on the clock. Simmons, handoff to Butler. He's already won a game or 2 this season on a shot like that, but the defense collapses on him. Difficult look. It won't go.
That was exceptional defense from Oklahoma City, and you can tell in the timeout they talked about the fact that very likely Ben and Jimmy are going to come together. Both defenders jump Jimmy, knowing that Ben will not shoot a 3.
Well, and that's how OKC maintained its win streak over Philly, now at 19 games. That's the longest active win streak by one team over another league-wide. Paul George hit the big one, part of his 31-point afternoon.
Take me through.
Oh, so often the difference between good teams and bad teams, and in this case between two good teams, is just simple execution late in games. Paul George knocks down that shot. They were able to do enough defensively to keep Butler from knocking down his. What was the difference for OKC?
Well, let's look at this play that took place where Billy Donovan drew up a play with multiple screens, up screens, back picks, and right here, as that cutter comes off, you'll see Embiid steps over a little bit. Just that step allowed Adams to go over and get a piece of Butler. That's the space you see right there. Here's the body into the shooter, Paul George. He makes it, goes to the line, puts them up, and now up 2 points. The dribble handoff takes place. But watch Simmons. Simmons doesn't move. He should move to the corner so he can get a quick return pass. Instead, Butler's left with 2 defenders on him. He takes an off-balance shot that's being challenged. Simmons handed it off, but he stood right next to him. There was nowhere for Butler to pass the ball.
Well, and Griff noted as well, that's the pass that OKC wants them to make if they can, because Ben Simmons is reluctant to take that shot and not likely to hit that shot given his history as a jump shooter. Meanwhile, you know, I maintained throughout the season that the biggest surprise from last summer of all the stuff that happened wasn't LeBron going to L.A. It was Paul George staying in Oklahoma City, and they continue to get the benefits from that.
Well, and I think what you've seen when they have played very well of late, when they play very well, lately it's Paul George's team. And in the fourth quarter, he's their leading scorer on the season. He's also shooting 42% from 3 in the fourth quarter. Today he had 14 points in the fourth quarter, 3 of 4 from 3. He's carrying the mail for them late in game situations. And today I would tell you that he actually got them past some really egregiously poor decision-making on the part of Russell Westbrook. About 1:46 left. They're up 4 points. Russell attempts a dagger three from the top of the key. Not a good shot at all with as much time as they had on the shot clock. I want to say there were 16 seconds left on the shot clock. Then that last foul he picks up, we showed the highlight. He picks up the foul from behind on the three-point shooter. That's a sixth foul. He can't reach in there. He's already blown by. He's got to just let that go. Paul's been so good, he's carrying them despite that.
Well, Russ was a little frustrated after the game, in part because of that foul, that collision rather, with Joel Embiid. The two of them have some history. Remember when OKC beat Philly in Oklahoma City? It was Westbrook waving bye-bye to Embiid and the Sixers on their way out. Here was his reaction to that collision after the game.
I don't think he just let him in. He had a little extra to it. You know what I'm saying? But it's okay. You guys are cool? No.
All righty then. On to the Mavericks and the Pacers. Luka Doncic and the Mavs, not really Luka's night. Put it that way. Victor Oladipo, step back. Going with the old hickory uniforms in this one. Oladipo. It's from Hoosiers, you know, Czar.
I remember that.
Okay, make it sure. Thought I lost you there.
Look, it's a bonus doing work.
Sabonis. 16 and 11 for him. 58-42 already at halftime. Hickory on top. That's Miles Turner. Jimmy Chitwood could never do that. Blocks Luka Doncic for the block, and then Oladipo to Miles Turner in the paint. They get the dunk there. Doncic just 3 of 14 on the night. And then after the tip, he kicks the ball and picks up his second technical.
Invited to leave the game.
Yes. Commanded even. Tyreek for 3. Evans was 7 of 11. He had 19 points and an easy win for the Indiana Pacers, 111-99. Sixth team in the NBA to reach 30 wins now. Here's Doncic on his first career ejection.
I was just trying to play soccer. I didn't try to kick the ball out of stance. And for sure, I didn't know the rule. If you go to stance, you got ejected. So I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that? That was
different rules in Europe. So I didn't know that was a rule. So, yeah.
Oh, so in Europe, you would still be in the game?
Nah, I wouldn't have been ejected for that for sure in Europe.
So you weren't frustrated when you kicked it? You were just trying to kind of do a trick?
I was trying to, juggle the ball. For sure. It went into the ball, so I got to work on my soccer skills.
Yeah, kicking the ball also acceptable in soccer. Just a note.
I want to see somebody for that sore on the bottom of the lip, too. I'm just throwing that out there. It looks like he might have gotten scratched.
More coming up here. Kyrie continues to walk the walk after talking the talk. Danny Green and the Raptors running roughshod over the league. And the Bucks making their own magic in Orlando. It's all ahead.
James Harden.
It is all hard. It's one of the greatest individual offensive runs we've ever seen.
The Beard also extended the streak to 18 in a row, scoring at least 30.
The step-back three is an iconic shot, just like the Skyhorn, just like the Dream Shake. James Harden's step-back three is unstoppable.
He's perfected the step-back where it's unguardable.
Just continue to go. Keep giving the opposing team hell.
Murray and Harden. He fell down. Man down. Man down.
You know, James Harden puts you in the most compromising position possible on every possession. The way he plays, the way he attacks.
Like a running back, using the power to create space with his elbow on the shoulder. All of a sudden, he knocked this guy back like they're in a boxing ring. Bang, bang, bang.
Down to 3, down to 2, it's a 3. Good! Good! He got it! He hit the 3!
He's got a mastery of the game. Again, I haven't seen his whole life, but the last 3 years, I don't know how you get any better than what he's playing.
Yeah, he's just extremely unique if you factor in just the overall offensive package. If you look at the volume of the shots that he takes for a team at an efficient level, I think that's the key. Then you add in the fact that his passing is at a level that's in the top 10 to 20 in NBA history. James has been leading the top offense since he's been in the league.
Oh, man, he's special, man. And he has a counter for everything the defense gives. If you force him right, he has counters going left. If you force him left, he has counters going right. There's really nothing you can do with him. You just have to hope he misses.
We got 40 games left to go. Like, it's outside of anything that we've ever seen.
So those shots you see him make at the end of games, he practices that stuff every single day. And to see him actually do it in games is pretty incredible.
Look, his whole team is hurt right now. At this point, I don't think there's any doubt about it. We still have half a season to go. Right now, James Harden is the NBA's MVP.
Step back. Oh! 57 points.
17 straight games with 30-plus points. That joins the most underrated player in NBA history, Elgin Baylor, and Wilt Chamberlain, the most statistically significant player in NBA history. Wow. Those are the only people to ever do that.
Houston Rockets, Los Angeles Lakers tip off at 8:30. James Harden averaging 40 points over the last 21 games, 18 straight games over 30, and over 55 points in his last 2 games. Kelly Iko of The Athletic joins us now. You cover the Houston Rockets. How incredible of a run has this been for James Harden? And with this team, how long do they plan on riding just Harden being their entire offense?
I think it's incredible. I wasn't around the league to cover when Kobe and Elgin Baylor did those crazy streaks, and now you're seeing it on a nightly basis where the team really needs it at the most. And you're seeing him doing it in such an efficient manner. And the crazy thing is he knows that if he can hit 5 or 6 threes, he said, and I quote, it's going to be a 40-point night. And back then, you would think that maybe 30 points would be good, but now he's thinking 40, 50, 60. And I think as the games go on, you're going to see him trying to will his team to victory and back up the Western Conference standings.
Kelly, how you doing, man? It's Booz. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Big fan of you.
Thank you, brother. I got a question. James has been on a tear, as we just documented and talked about. Going forward, the schedule gets a little thicker. They're playing without CP3, obviously. They're playing without Clint Capella. May have a signing coming up here soon. What other guy on the team is gonna step up consistently to help him carry some of that offensive load, whether that's Eric Gordon or whether that's Gerald Green? Who you got?
I think Eric Gordon, for sure. He kind of started the season a bit slow and consistent, but as you see him come back the last game, he was on a minutes restriction, but he is going to be needed to be offensive, aggressive, and for a consistent basis for them to, get some wins put together.
And Kelly, as you look at this team trying to go back deep into the playoffs again, is there any concern that James may run out of gas like he did last year, that someone definitely has to help him? Or are we looking at James being in that great of shape, this may be the year he can go all the way?
Yeah, definitely. Coach D'Antoni always talks about his biggest fear is, putting too much load and time on James's legs. And he's averaging almost close to 40 minutes in this 20-game stretch, which is pretty unbelievable. But with Eric Gordon coming back and Chris Paul returning next week possibly, and Austin Rivers with the team now, the idea is to give him some rest, because he is putting a lot of time in the dog days of the season where you're going to need him in May and possibly June, hopefully, for them.
Well, you mentioned Chris Paul. Earlier this week, Mike D'Antoni said, okay, Chris Paul should be back next week. What is that timetable? Is there a specific game that's now located as the game Chris Paul should come back?
No. Well, we all know D'Antoni keeps things close to his chest, but I don't think there's a specific game that he has in mind, but it depends on Chris and how he looks, in training and in practice.
All right,
next
excellent.
week for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Kelly Iko from The Athletic. Appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Chris Paul, I think, is the key to this entire equation, because when you look at James Harden's usage, we haven't seen this in what we can say the modern era, right? When you look at all the stats, it kind of goes back to Elgin Baylor or Wilt Chamberlain. Those are the names that you had. And like you said, look, 55 or more in consecutive games, there's 2 guys on that list, James Harden and Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing right now. He scored 58, and they lost the game. So this is a situation where when Chris Paul comes back, maybe we see this run of James Harden having this usage and these crazy stats go away, but it might be better for the Houston Rockets, right?
Well, we can say that, Chris, but James Harden is playing at such a high level, he's been able to hold down the fort. So if you're giving James Harden a rest, who's going to hold down his fort? So we're saying Chris Paul's going to come back and start getting 40 for his 10 straight games. We're saying Chris Paul's going to come back and start getting 50 the way James Harden's getting. I don't think so. So what we're saying is when Chris Paul comes back, come back and be who Chris Paul is, and James Harden, you continue to do what you're doing, because it has to happen that way if we're thinking you're going to get back to a possible Game 7. Chris Paul's hamstring doesn't get hurt. Maybe they beat Golden State. See all these maybes I'm talking about? So that's why it has to be Austin Rivers. Is it Brandon Knight? Is it Eric Gordon? It has to be a collective of guys to help what James Harden's doing if they want to go deep again.
Certainly, James Harden is someone that if he's not on top of your MVP palette, he should be 1A or 1B, right? You can't have him. You can't have him at number 2.
If he's 4 or 5, then what NBA are you watching?
Well, there's another guy on top of that ballot or near.